My name is Anwen Robinson, or Princess Anne, if I'm to believe my name tag here. And I'm the CEO of UNIT4 Business Software, UK and Ireland. I know the theme is what is real and what is an illusion. But actually, I could do with being a princess for a couple of days here anyway. But so thank you for that, Judith. But the reality isn't too bad for us all at UNIT4 either, as we're enjoying really good growth and profitability in an economy that has not been kind to many organizations, as you well know. But the reality for our customers is that we've proven over and over to be a valued partner for helping them to embrace ongoing organizational change, regardless of whatever form it comes in. UNIT4 has grown to be a $624 million company with more than 25 years of expertise supporting post-implementation agility. We offer 3 primary solutions: Agresso ERP, Coda Financials, and the Force.com platform Financial Force. But today, I'm here to talk to you about Agresso and Coda, and I'll leave it to my colleague Jeremy Roach to brief you separately about our FinancialForce.com. For the few of you in the audience that are new to us, we make a pretty big deal about the difference between the cost, time, and business disruption that occurs for non-UNIT4 users when they try to make changes to their ERP solution following the initial deployment, so after they've actually deployed. Because, and let's get real here, none of us are under any illusions that ERP or financial software systems are inexpensive to install. The dirty little secret in the industry, however, is that these pricey price tags are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the life of an ERP solution. Agresso's architecture is different. At its very heart, the Vita architecture is literally built to support ongoing changing circumstances. Circumstances like mergers, reorganizations, new business processes and strategies, new financial or regulatory, I can never say that word, compliances. And our Coda solution is the very financial reporting and analytical heartbeat for companies that are tasked with supporting multiple ERP solutions and data source systems. So if you want accuracy, consistency, and interoperability in a multi-system scenario, then in those cases, you want Coda to accurately sort it all out for you. And as these systems change and companies consolidate and evolve, Coda's fantastic plug-and-play capabilities are a lifesaver to the CFO and financial executives everywhere. UNIT4 serves a wide range of commercial and public sectors, including local government, education, financial services, not-for-profit, professional services, retail, and transport and logistics. But let's go through the key points of our 6 announcements that we're making at Grape Escape this year. So announcement number 1. This is a new study proving business change is driving ERP costs sky high, despite the market's new releases. In your press kits, you'll discover a brand new survey conducted by IDC, which measured the experiences of 167 executives across North America and Europe. And according to the results of the survey, the price of change requirements averages $1.2 million per year. And in the extreme, this can exceed $4.1 million a year after the initial deployment costs are borne. And I just find that completely staggering. In fact, business-related circumstances forced 15% of the survey respondents to have to re-implement their entire ERP system. Of those organizations, 60% reported that this was after an original $2.5 million cash outlay. Phenomenal figures. Now, I don't need to remind any of you that many of our largest competitors, including SAP and Oracle, have introduced major new releases and even new architectures in the recent past, and some new alliances as well. They loudly claim that they are now flexible and easy to modify. But read the survey. It shows a very different picture about all of these new systems. Here are some specifics. Nearly 70% of the respondents had implemented new ERP solutions in the past 3 years. It was this new ERP that was the most likely to have needed to make moderate to substantial modifications to their systems due to business events. Now we're talking about costly, high price tag, disruptive coding activities. For example, to modify the underlying data structure underpinning the ERP solution just one time, the average estimate for the level of effort was almost 14 business days. Now, this is all nasty stuff. But don't take my word for it. See the laments of these 167 companies, and then I entreat you. Put your skeptic's hat on each and every time, and each and every time you digest our competitors' claims about Oracle Fusion or SAP Enterprise Suite or any of the new cloud vendors out there. Just challenge a little bit more. Announcement number 2. This was another new study. This one again proving the architectural differences between Agresso's Vita architecture when compared to Microsoft Dynamics, AX, and SAP Enterprise Suite. Now, the purpose of this study was again to do a deep dive of UNIT4's architectural capabilities against 46 different business-related changes by asking the same set of, how do you do this type of thing? These questions were asked against UNIT4, Microsoft, and SAP. And what we found, despite the latest advances of each of these vendors, is that Agresso continues to provide substantial advantages to rapidly changing organizations. The evidence was collected from customers of each product who certified that, first of all, they clearly understood both the questions and how the change was performed by the ERP system that they used. The vendor comparison performed by EvalSource and available again in your press kits covered again the 5 most common areas of business-related change that I mentioned earlier in the IDC study. So it's all linked here. 46 change requirements were evaluated to determine if the ERP solution could be adjusted to support the change either by business users via the graphical user interface, or if IT intervention and resources were needed for software application recoding. Only UNIT4 dominantly kept the change power in the hands of business users. 44 of the 46 total change needs could be performed without recoding by business users. Conversely, Microsoft AX required software recoding for 32 out of the 46 areas, and SAP required application recoding for each and every one of the 46 areas of business change. Now, as usual with UNIT4, business users are simply availing themselves to our GUI drag and drop functionality from a single point of entry. Again, have a look at the study. There are some really good graphics actually that point out the architectural differences between UNIT4, SAP, and Microsoft Dynamics AX. Announcement number 3. This is introducing the promised new Agresso user interface, which we refer to as a user experience. And we're also going more aggressively after professional services with some of our new capabilities. 4 years ago, UNIT4 began extensive research to develop a new user interface. But we didn't just use our own research. We deliberately worked with a third-party specialist to interview, observe, and videotape users in different age groups, different roles, and/or jobs from all around the world in their natural working environment. Our goal was to take ERP user experience to the next level and introduce new ways to support business change. This week, we have released our work from an R&D perspective, and users can actually get their hands on it in October this year. So now we have an unbeatable back-end architecture and a front-end user interface. We are deploying these new experiences via a package solution approach that we call Experience Packs. A key benefit of this is that the Experience Packs give Agresso customers the freedom to choose what to focus their upgrades on in terms of timing and order. So bye-bye to the traditional big, bulky, high-cost, very costly upgrades. The first wave of user experience packs are People Planner and Project Planner, which are both aimed at professional service organizations, and we're also launching an organizational modeler. The new experience packs are complemented with a series of mobile apps to offer end users choice and optimal process support for a wide range of self-service tasks such as time, expenses, approvals, and information requests, and are actually natively built for iOS and Android. Experience packs are scheduled for release every 4 months, and the next wave of experience packs will include expenses, time, tasks, absence, and travel requests. And these again will come to market in October 2013. Announcement number 4, delivering on our new higher education market initiative. This is one I'm very proud of. Last winter, the UNIT4 team spoke to you about our desire to aggressively pursue the research and higher education market by bringing new advanced capabilities to the market. And today I'm here to announce the availability of a competitively advanced costing and pricing solution to help research organizations such as universities, not-for-profit organizations, and non-governmental organizations to simplify all aspects of costing and pricing for research projects. This solution is a result of 2 years innovation with two of the world's leading research institutions, Oxford and Cambridge universities. And the goal of this actual work was to support more consistent, accurate and sustainable research practices. And because it's built on the Agresso framework, of course, it supports business change in a far superior way. Agresso Research Costing and Pricing is a flexible, full economic costing, pricing and approval tool that enables the production of accurate cost estimates and collaborative agreement on appropriate prices for grant applications and research contracts. It provides a consistent approach to research costing, including data input, output, and interpretation through a single shared system. It's available either in the cloud or on-premise and is a multilingual and multi-currency solution. You'll of course see our press release on this again in your press kit. Announcement number 5. Now, we all remember the debate last year on this one. Announcement number 5. 3 new multi-tenant cloud advantages bring the total of clearly differentiating UNIT4 Agresso cloud advantages to 5. 5. Now, we've been doing our homework over the past year since we've validated the UNIT4 Agresso cloud solution as being full multi-tenant supporting. And as you will recall, last summer we announced the first 2 advantages of better security and portability tied to having unique individual data stores versus data partitions. Now, no one has been more surprised than we have after our work with technology evaluation centers, Mint, Jutris, TechVentive and EvalSource, as well as our own internal teams and partners, to discover that the advantages of our unique architecture are again providing us with change supporting and other capabilities that are far in advance of what other cloud ERP providers actually can offer. And we do mean any other, including not only the new solutions from the established vendors, but the new NetSuite and Workday. This is quite some things that we're actually announcing here. So in your kit today, you'll see 3 new white papers from TechVentive solving these previously unsolvable or expensive to solve issues that plague every other ERP multi-tenant cloud solution provider. First of all, inflexible forced releases. The ERP customer's lack of control over forced schedule release updates has also been a huge issue, particularly for organizations that are regularly experiencing ongoing business change. Here again, the unique feature architectural capabilities of Agresso, multi-tenant cloud model, allow UNIT4 customers to have what it calls cloud elasticity, which means release updates and upgrades can be provided according to their own desired scheduled requirements. Secondly, incomplete or new beta-type functionality in suites. This is also called lack of maturity by IT and business users alike, who are struggling through a lack of maturity in feature functions of the new cloud ERP solutions. This is because even decades-old successful vendors with millions of users and mature on-premises product suites have had to completely rebuild ERP solutions from the bottom up, rendering many of them these new solutions to little more than beta test versions. UNIT4 did not have to rebuild its functionality mature, feature-rich ERP solution set. All of the maturity of the complete, long-proven solution moves seamlessly into a multi-tenant cloud environment. And the last one, data mistake complications. Data elimination or unintended business process changes or mistakes made by ERP users in a multi-tenant cloud environment, either performed accidentally or intentionally, corporate sabotage, requires significant time, money, and business disruption to correct. Now, most cloud vendors offer little or no forgiveness protection or correction and will not directly resolve these issues. Worst, they will actually charge significant fees and long wait times for data restoration. Conversely, UNIT4 provides accident forgiveness for these types of mistakes. And finally, announcement number 6, the result from our third Coder Mind Meld survey, which Judith actually enjoys these ones. We thought it might be interesting to get a handle on what users of financial software are actually thinking about the new mobile technologies and capabilities. And boy, did we get a earful. We surveyed 88 UNIT4 Coder financial software customers in the US and Europe, and approximately half of the respondents worked in either financial or technology functions of their organizations. And the other half actually used Coder in their work, although they worked outside of finance or tech functions. Most of these, 82%, reported that the total annual revenue was around about $1.5 billion or less. And we also separated the respondents by US, UK, and other European countries. Now, perhaps not surprising that 57% of all respondents said that their work days are at least 10% longer than they were 5 years ago because of the use of mobile devices. 41% of the respondents report that they are using mobile devices more than 3 hours a day for work-related purposes, with UK executives leading the three geographic groups with 54% of the working 3 hours plus each day on their devices. Conversely, a fairly consistent 18 to 19% of the respondents say they do no work-related activities at all on these devices. You know, very, very strange. I'm still trying to find out, what that group is to get some tips from them. But anyway, a copy of the summer 2013 UNIT4 Coder Mind Meld survey, again, is in your press kit. Well, that's it from me. And now I'd like to hand over to UNIT4 strategic partner Paul Ringham of BT Global Services, who's going to tell you about a very exciting undertaking that we're pursuing in local government in the UK. Over to you, Paul.
In a moment, I'll talk about my partnership with UNIT4. But before I do, I'd like to just share some of the key shifting trends that I'm seeing in the marketplace with respect to ERP. These come into three categories: changes in ERP software buying behaviour, changes within the IT services landscape, and based on the above, what I believe will lead to an important ERP vendor landscape change. What I'll do is I'll give you the facts as I see them and let you draw your own conclusions, because that's exactly what you're very good at. And as Judith said, my viewpoint is from that of a large global services company. Global Services delivers IT-related solutions that span from infrastructure to applications, telecommunications, hardware and software deployment, and business process outsourcing. I'm responsible for the BT's UK local government business, which is approximately a $770 million business. Now, the UK local government sector, like the rest of Europe, and I dare say probably the US, is, as the young folk say, a bit of a hot mess. Or, as we say in the UK, knackered. The turmoil is caused by a number of things. The first one being the budget pressure the local government sector is under. They've taken 20 to 30% cuts over the last 3 years, and they've got another 20 and 30% cuts coming in the next 3 years. And these are often per annum figures. So the communities, the cities, the districts are absolutely scrambling to see how they can fill the shortfall. And specifically how to provide the needed infrastructure, but also more importantly, the frontline vital services that they provide the citizens. No one's quite sure where this is all going to end, whether the budgets are eventually going to stabilise or whether they're going to carry on going down and down and down. And that means long-term planning is not being considered properly at the moment. People are living hand to mouth. And while this is bad enough, the public administrators are under the closest scrutiny they've ever had to face. Every decision, every procurement, every vendor selection is being reviewed, re-reviewed, reanalysed by a number of watchers who, if anything, are becoming more critical in very difficult times. So, all this leads to continual organisational change. This results in either large organisations reducing their staff and changing their systems accordingly, or the consolidation of smaller organisations and increasing the scope of the work they provide. This has all led to the fact that the old ways of doing things are now long gone, dead and buried. Let me give you an example of how we're really seeing this in the UK marketplace. IT solutions and contracts used to be bought on a 10 to 15 year basis in my market. These were massive, locked-in deals. The customers would be there. You knew you had a guaranteed revenue stream for the next 10 to 15 years. And when they started, that was only the tip of the iceberg. Through scope expansion, through extensions, through change, the initial value of the contracts would actually change from and double or triple over that period of time. A real-life example that BT Global Services has is we contracted with Liverpool City Council back in 2002. The original contract was valued at about £320 million, $500 million. And it was for HR&P, Revs and Bends, and ICT services. Over the 10-year period, that contract expanded to roughly £800 million, $1.2 billion. And we've just signed a 5-year extension that's going to lead to more revenue off the back of that. And all the time, the customer was getting better quality services at a cheaper price and enabling them to spend that funds on other services for the citizens of Liverpool. However, my prediction is those deals are gone. Massive multi-year services are no longer going to be let. These have been the norm for the global services IT providers like ourselves for the last 15 years. It's also affecting the other massive ERP contractors, such as SAP and Oracle, where we all know that you spend $1 on software and you have to spend another $6 on installation and maintenance fees. They're going the way of the dinosaur. They will be extinct. And I would hazard a guess that's going to be the same in the US. My customers don't know where budgetary-wise they're going to be in 2 years' time, let alone in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. And this is really having an impact on how they buy services. So let me just pause on that for a timing and look at it from both our side of the fence and my customer's side of the fence. Those 10-year contracts that we talked about used to protect us. They used to be the mainstay of our business. Now they're becoming the millstone round our neck, because what happens is that we were investing a lot of money up front in transformation of services, bringing people onto new platforms. Now they run the risk that in 2, 3, 5, 10 years' time, they're not going to have the tax revenues to be able to pay the fees. What happens is that they either try and renegotiate, they seek further discounts, or in some instances they terminate the contracts. That leaves me, as the supplier, in a massive hole because I've got 2 or 3 years upfront investment invested in the contract. From their side of the fence, they've got 20 to 30% less money to be playing with at the moment. And the budget decision makers have got to decide, do they cut frontline services, protection of vulnerable groups, adult social care, education, or do they cut their IT budgets? So I know which one they're going to go for. And more importantly, which one of their constituents going to force them to go for. So you get a political overlay over the top of it as well. So the ways of doing business historically are gone. The massive transformations that we used to do through technology and services aren't going to be there anymore. So it comes down to buyers in local governments and public sectors needing to do more with an unpredictable less. And for those of us in the IT services world, we now need to provide solutions to these people at a much reduced price point that offer them more flexibility. What has happened is actually we're not just doing transformation to them anymore, we're transforming the way we run our business in order to service their needs. So this has come out in 3 major ways that I know are very close to all your analysts' hearts. These are off-premise cloud deployments as opposed to lengthy on-premise deployments, shared services between government entities versus single solutions to each entity, and business services and outsourcing as opposed to keeping headcount internally on each of the entities. Now, these are all things that have been talked about 2-3 years ago. It's the first time in the last 6 to 12 months we're seeing real traction in the marketplace because people are being forced to do it. They cannot operate in the old-fashioned ways. The austerity measures and the budgetary constraints are forcing them to do this, whether they like it or not. So previously, we used to partner, obviously, with the big ERP providers like Oracle and SAP on large, expensive, decade-long installations. And at the time, the customers were happy to pay for it. However, now, as I said before, they're under so much scrutiny. The buying decisions that are going to historically escalate up are frowned upon. And people just aren't doing it anymore. So that was the backdrop to what I'm seeing in the marketplace. I said I'd cover 3 trending shifts in the beginning. Changing buying habits, changing the services landscape, and now we get to the third one, which is changing of the vendor landscape, which I think is the most interesting for the audience we have here. I actually think it's going to be bloody difficult for the large ERP providers to adapt to the new market. However, I see it as a huge opportunity for the likes of UNIT4. And I'll give you 3 reasons, and then I'll give you a real-life example of where they really come to life. Reason 1, licensing. As I mentioned previously, SAP and Oracle, we used to contract with them in the usual battleship-style contracts, where you had fixed term, fixed price, very little flexibility. That tied us in, and before, when you had a 10-year contract that you knew you were going to upsell, you could survive that, and you had the profitability to share between the 2 parties. Now it's no longer there. UNIT4 is giving us new options that work within the budget realities of our customers, and more importantly, the customers are asking for UNIT4 services. Our clients now get a great Agresso ERP user license that not only steps down, but gives better service than they previously experienced. So let me give you an example. If one customer joins and takes the service, they'll get 1 price. If 2, they get the same service, but at a lower price across the 2 customers. If they bring on 3 more authorities, sister authorities, all of them benefit by getting a lower price. They've still got the same service, still got the same optionality. In a real-life example, a London borough used to pay $750,000 just for purely processing its HR, its payroll. We estimate that if 10 London boroughs come onto the shared service platform that will give a better service than they were previously used to, they will be paying something in the region of $120,000 per annum, a massive saving. And I'll go into that detail in a little bit more, that example in a little bit more detail later. Second reason is the speed of deployment. Anwen's talked about this briefly, but never in any sector have I seen speed of deployment be more important than it is in local government at the moment. They are desperate for the savings. They want day 1 savings. And again, previously, we could guarantee day 1 savings if we were tied into a 10-year contract because we knew we'd get the profits in the back end. They're not signing up to 10-year contracts, so we need a solution, gives them day 1 savings, also protects our margin as a supplier. You heard Anwen speak about Agresso's unique Vita architecture, and Judith tells me that she's been relentless in talking about the 3-part architecture of data model, business model, and analytics and reporting delivery model that move in lockstep. I can tell you from a user, data migration to a cloud using this model, using this system, is much faster than any of the other architects we've looked at, and even faster still than the new ones that are being promoted by some of the big players. Third reason, post-implementation agility. UNIT4's reputation for supporting ongoing business and organisational change with a minimum of cost, time and disruption was previously a nice to have. Now it's an absolute must to have. The customers just do not have the budgets, the big budgets for recoding of the software every time they go through an organisational change. And by the way, they're going through an organisational change every year virtually now. So that post-implementation agility is a huge selling point. So, having said all of those things, doesn't mean there's not good money in this for both BT and UNIT4, and this is the basis of our partnership. An example I'm going to use now is a deal that we signed back in March, and it was signed with the City of Westminster Council, which is one of the more high-profile councils within London and within the UK. It was basically a deal to supply a powerful finance, HR and payroll package supported by the Agresso ERP solution in the cloud. And the Westminster story really is a great story, and it summarises all of what I've said before. But let me give you the backdrop of how they were going about this procurement, because it's becoming more and more common in my space and throughout Europe. People are entering into framework deals. And by that I mean, in the UK and Europe, the procurement process is very, very strictly governed, and it usually takes somewhere between 12 and 18 months to do a procurement. It's costly, it's a huge drain on management that they don't have anymore. And also, if something goes wrong, there's numerous ways that they can be challenged, and you have to start the whole process all over again. So what customers are doing now are entering into framework contracts whereby a number of them will actually be named beneficiaries on a procurement. So one person will lead it, they'll go through the pain of setting it up, and then any of the other beneficiary organisations can buy off that framework without going through a procurement process. So basically what they do is they club together, get on the frameworks, they'll sit back, see how the first implementation goes out. If they like what they see, bang, they can buy it straight away on a low-cost, low-risk basis. The Westminster framework involved 3 people leading it. You had Westminster, you had Hammersmith and Fulham, you had Kensington and Chelsea. But you had 17 other London boroughs tied to that framework. And this is a massive market opportunity, and it's going to happen more and more. So we set the contract up that there are components that are relatively standard, but put together in a Chinese menu. So of those 20 beneficiary organisations, they can take and pick the components they want to tailor the solution to what their real needs are. And the reason that it was successful, the reason we won it, was for the reasons I just mentioned. The price point Agresso can give us, the post-implementation agility, and the speed of deployment. Because the people leading the procurement knew that is exactly what the other beneficiary organisations were going to be after. And by the way, the more beneficiary organisations join, the lower price it gets for everyone. So there's a compelling event for everyone to come forward. So, and with 468 local authorities alone in the UK, and that doesn't include some of the other central government bodies, the health organisations, the quangos, the opportunity is massive. And the market is crying out for the solution that we can, to BT and UNIT4 can offer them. So, that's coming to the end. If ever there was a point where you would see an ERP re-ranking reset button, I believe it's now. I think what we are seeing is a transition point in the market that will take us to a place where we've never been before. I personally believe that the large ERP players, historical SAPs and the SAPs, the Oracles and the SAPs, do not have the versatility in their architecture to be able to step up to what the market is demanding now, and certainly can't match what UNIT4 can provide as of today.